Welcome to the show. Now, last week I introduced you to this amazing product, Nivea Cocoa Butter. Well, today I want to tell you a little more about it. You see, this is specifically made for dry skin. It nourishes your skin for up to 48 hours. And I'm not just gassing them up. I use it. It lasts so long, keeps your skin smooth and glowing. Yeah, 48 hours is not a lie. Now it's time to meet our amazing guest. She's a household name we all know and love and have watched grow and soar through the years. She's here today to share her story as we celebrate women on International Women's Day with our amazing partner Nivea. So stay right there, don't move. Special thanks to our location, the beautiful Radisson Blu Arboretum. Let's begin. Hi there, welcome to Unscripted with me, Grace. It's a pleasure to have you each time. Special thanks to our location, Radisson Blu in Arboretum, for hosting us. Like I mentioned earlier, today is an amazing, beautiful guest as we celebrate Women's Day. Terry Anne,
well,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting
coming.
me. Finally.
Finally. We've been trying to make this happen.
Finally.
And do you get better with time? You look amazing.
You know what age does? I think age sort of forces you to try and look better every day.
You look amazing.
Thank you.
Is there a secret? Something for us girls. Pay attention.
Eat well, stay moisturized, drink water.
I think our partner will be very happy to hear that. Stay moisturized with Nivea.
Stay moisturized. Work out. Okay. But mostly eat well. We are what we eat.
That's true. Let's start from the beginning. Terry Anne, where did you grow up? Where do you call home? What are your fond memories as a child?
So I grew up in Kitale.
Okay.
In a little farmhouse.
All right. Why in quotes?
Because farmhouse these days looks like a really beautiful picket fence.
Got it.
You know,
Got it.
Cottage style.
Yeah.
But it was a home in a farm.
Okay.
Where my parents set up.
Okay.
My dad was a curator at the National Museums.
Oh,
he was actually one of the first black curators of the National Museums.
That's amazing.
So he
was
that
where your creative side came from?
I think so, especially the poetry side, because he was a poet as well.
Was he?
Yes, he was.
Oh, nice.
So he first started working at Fort Jesus in Mombasa, then was transferred to Kitale, where he met my mom.
I see.
And they started a family then. So we grew up in Kitale, in a regular family. Okay. My parents were farmers, but of course they were working as well. Well, my dad was working. Yeah, so childhood was everything a child would want, I guess. You know, playing around. We had oranges. My parents used to plant oranges, so we were like making orange juice, making jam, like all these fun things that my mom used to like to do.
What's your fondest memory to date? Growing up in the farm and then moving to the city?
I miss my mom's drop scones, and we used to call them pancakes at the time for some strange reason. So my mom makes the best of that. So she taught us how to cook. And
you share a lot about your cooking online.
Yes,
so you get that from mom?
I get that from mom. My mom was like the village chef. Whether it was a wedding or anything, she always made the pilau, actually.
So I think I saw an interview, you mentioned that you sort of desired to get into ministry and be a pastor at some point.
Yeah.
Tell me about that experience.
Because I was a worship team leader, and I was always in Christian Union and all this. Yeah. So whether it's leading worship or you'd chip in and read a verse,
share a word,
share the word.
Yeah.
So because of that, and because I was always well spoken, I think you read the word, you lead worship. Yeah. You can, you stand up in a crowd and take us through a lesson from the Bible. I think a lot of people just, started
putting two and two together.
Yeah, and leading me towards that direction. Like, you know what, I think you'd be a great minister. I think, and I don't know, maybe one day. But
did you try?
No.
Or really consider it?
No, not seriously. Although there was a time I wanted to go to Bible school.
Look at that.
Yeah.
I think we've seen you share your love for singing, whether it's listening to a song in the car or actually singing in a band. Was that always an interest?
Yes. So the first time somebody told me I could sing well was in primary school. Okay. And it was a teacher who actually didn't like me.
You thought they didn't like you? But they spotted something in you.
Yeah, so we did a shairi, the singing shairis, I forget what they're called now. And then, so it was her week, it was her duty week.
Got it.
And so she comes up to assembly and she says, Chebet, because then I didn't have the name Terry Anne at the time, which is a story for another time. So my name was Chebet Cherutich. And then, well, still is. So she says, I've never listened to it, you know, somebody singing that beautifully, and I'm like, you don't even like me. Like, why would you be so nice today? But I guess it's just, you know, misconceptions and conceptions that we make up as kids about people. But that was the first time somebody said it. I think I was probably in standard 5.
That you have a gift?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And after that, then when I was more active in the youth group, and we started leading worship on Sundays, then my pastor at the time is called Jacob, then was basically the one saying, you're leading the worship team today, or you're going to sing a solo. And I'm like, what? It's like, no, you have a beautiful voice.
I think you did an interview at some point, and you talked about while you were very young, life for your family changed drastically when your father had an unfortunate accident. Take us back to that time and how it affected the dynamics of the family.
My dad was a very strong personality. Unfortunately, he passed away later on in 1998. But when I was about 3-4 years old, he was involved in a road accident. You know, the joke I tell people is, you know, we were supposed to be rich.
Wow, Terry.
Because, you know, by that time he was building a double-story house. You know, they dug out the foundation. He had a car. He had a combi, and like nobody had a car.
That's a big deal,
in those days. This was in the early 80s. So he then he got involved in a road accident. We were too young to understand what it was at the time. But when it got to hit us, at least for me, is when he went to hospital and he didn't come back home. Not for a week, not for a month, but for 7 years.
7 years?
7 years. He was at the Nairobi Spinal Injury Hospital for 7 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
It's a long time. So he was admitted in 1983. He came back home in 1990.
You're kidding me?
Yes.
Is it because the treatment there wasn't at par? It's a long time.
I think it was a spinal injury at that time was treated, you know, in a very sensitive way. Because I think now with technology and a lot has changed. But at that time it was, you know, so we used to come see him during the holidays, or, you know, twice a year or so, because then my mom had to take responsibility of everything, now alone.
How did that change your lives, with mom doing everything?
It changed everything. You know, my dad had a solid job. You know, he was working at the museum. He you know, he was an alliance boy, so he was a very, you know, he had big dreams. He knew, in fact, I think my dad would be president of this country if he had stayed alive, you know, if he stayed alive. He was very focused, and he knew what, you know, he knew what he wanted. But I think when that happened, all of that was shelved. You know, now he had to focus on his health. My mom had to focus on us. Thankfully, the museum offered her a job. Oh, good. Because she had been a housewife before then. But then she had to just, you know, work hard, so hard from at that point to raise 5 children. Wow. Yeah.
As we celebrate Women's Day, and also now being a mother of 2 kids, what lessons can you take out from that, seeing your mom work so hard to provide for her kids?
The biggest lesson, in as far as my mom is concerned, is resilience. And sometimes, you know, we get stuck in questioning the why, that we forget there are other opportunities that may come out of things.
That's true.
I may never know what that may have been like for my mom. But I know when she looks back today and she looks at her children and all the work that she did, I hope she's proud.
Before being the big journalist that you are in the niche that is a business world, we started seeing you acting. I used to watch you with Makbu on a TV show. Hope you guys can remember. But you mentioned that you were a quiet child, weren't you? The girl in the corner with the books. How did you end up being on stage and getting into the acting role? So
I got into acting because I acted in school.
I see.
In, like, you know, drama, school drama, ATC. So when I came to Nairobi, I joined the Phoenix Players. I actually applied from the newspaper.
Really?
Applied from the newspaper. So I got shortlisted into the annual musical.
Got it.
So that's how it began.
I see.
And then KBC came somewhere along the way. After I'd gone to college, I did production. And so I used to do both. Production and acting in the evenings, which was absolute. It was so amazing. I think it? Yeah, it was. And I always feel like now that I'm a parent of a teenager, we have to encourage children to get something to do after school.
That is so true.
Whether it's high school or after high school, to keep them in the right places.
Keep them
So
busy
for me
doing something.
Exactly. So when I left KBC at 5, I went to Phoenix.
Good job.
And we're acting, we were stage managing, learning everything, lights,
Good job.
basically everything. So I hope that I'll have the
Create
strength,
that.
the discipline to get my children to experience the same as well.
True. Very true. Thank you. Welcome back to Unscripted. Thank you for staying with us and staying tuned and listening to Terry Anne's story. Thank you for making time for us.
Thank you.
We know you're a busy woman, so we appreciate you taking
Don't say that.
time
I
off
make
your
time
day.
for I make time for friends. I make time for.
Thank you. We just appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So before we're talking about just your journey, where you grew up and your life story, and now we go into the TV business, because we know you as everyone, you're a household name. And in the business world, how did that come to be, from acting to deciding, you know what, I want to be the next greatest business journalist? How did that happen? When did that transition take place?
It actually happened by accident.
What do you mean?
So when I was at KBC,
Yeah.
then I got pregnant with Imani. And then I said, okay, now I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
My salary is 25,000 bob. The kind of life I wanted to give my child, I felt that
This is not going to be enough.
It was not going to be enough.
So what did you
So
do?
I needed another job. So I looked for another job at an advertising agency,
I
which
see.
I used to do during the day, and then KBC allowed me to do
the
the news at night.
Okay.
So Nyatichi then called me and
Yeah.
said, "There's this business channel that's opening up in Nairobi, and because you used to do business news,
Come and
you'd be perfect, I think. So I've
Super.
given out your number. This is a gentleman. Please call him and set up an appointment." I'm
look
like,
at that.
okay. I mean, I used to read news,
Yeah.
business news, but I didn't understand. Like, if you asked me what the stock market was, I'd be like,
The way if anyone asks me, the expert in business, here's Terry Anne's number. You're looking for that? Here you go.
Well, now yes, but then I didn't
Wow.
know because nobody
Mentored
told us
you
that we
or-
needed to understand what we were reading. And at that time, the newsrooms were
You were just a reader, just show up
yeah,
and read the auto cue or the script.
Exactly.
I see.
So there were some reporters who were anchors,
Got it.
but many of the anchors were just anchors. So you come in the evening, the script has been prepared for you, and you read.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't have the discipline or even the desire to go outside and read. What are these things that I read?
Go back and do homework
Go
and
back.
understand.
No, I didn't. Because one, we didn't have interviews. So
Oh, you didn't?
You know.
Okay.
And
That happened
interviews usually
later.
force you to
Yes.
understand the subject
Yeah.
matter. So anyway, so I went to talk to the gentleman from CNBC, and I was like, wow, these guys are big people. Like, yeah, I want to be here. Now the problem is, how am I going to convince him that I can actually
Yeah.
do this? So at CNBC, so when I joined, they took me through a training.
Okay.
First of all, on how the stock market works for 3 months
Oh, good.
before I went on air.
Okay.
So by the time I went on air, at least I had the bare
Some stuff
minimum.
at your fingertips.
You know,
Okay.
I understood how a stock market operates. I knew what a stock was. I had an idea of what trading was like.
All right.
But then CNBC had a way of throwing me into the deep end
How so?
that I needed to learn. What my first interview was Richard Branson.
That was your first interview?
It was
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah?
But my heart was like in my mouth. I was panicking. But that was not a hard interview. My second interview was the then governor of the central bank.
Wow. How was that like for you?
Horrible. Because I had no idea what he was talking about. But I had to
So you
look
had
like
no
I was
follow-up
like,
question.
great, sir. And I moved to the next question. I'm like, so what do you think about the monetary policy?
So he'll answer
Then
and
he
you have
answers,
no
I'm like,
idea.
I have no idea what he's talking about. And I'm like,
I need to watch
thank
that
you
interview.
for that. And then I go back to the next question. And after that interview,
Oh, it's
I was
hilarious.
so... And I think I kept thinking that he can see I don't know.
Yeah.
And he made it even more complex.
I'm sure.
I was like, this is not going to work. So then I went down and sat down with my boss, and he's like, this is what you need to do. You have to read.
Good.
You know, you have to do your research. You have to do A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
So he constantly now pushed me to read.
Okay.
My former boss, Washira Waruru,
Yeah.
who was my MD at KBC before.
Oh, I see.
So one day he calls me and he's like, Terry Anne, you're not reading, eh? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I watched your interview with I don't know who.
Oh, I see.
And he's like, no, it's showing. And you cannot afford
That's
to
a
let
good
it
boss.
show.
That's a good boss.
So he told me, do you know The Economist? I said, yes, I've seen it.
Read it.
Read it. Every week. Read the Harvard Business Review and read the Business Daily every day.
Fantastic.
I was like, okay. So, and he's like, I'll be watching to see that there's
Good
some
job.
improvement.
And how did
And
that
he did.
affect your...
It changed everything for me. First, knowing that there's somebody who was kind enough to let me know when I wasn't performing, but also told me in a way that would grow me, you know. And so for me, every time I was doing something, I'm like, Bashira might be watching.
Good.
And he'll know I'm messing around.
So
or
in
I'm
the
not
back
being
of your
serious.
mind, that was your wake-up call.
And that's how I eventually learned. Got my confidence, grew my networks, knew who to call for every interview. So it was a beautiful journey of learning and meeting
growing.
Amazing people, traveling the world. So that was amazing for me.
You're very big on speaking about purpose and creating a vision board at the beginning of every year. So if you could touch on the importance of purpose, if there is a difference, passion and purpose, and also how to ensure that you can make that your business, so that it doesn't feel like you're going to work every day, but you're actually doing something that you're meant to do on this earth.
Purpose is informed by passion.
That's true.
You know, so you'll be passionate about something, and I think it's placed in our heart for a reason. You know, you're not doing Unscripted because you woke up
just
one morning and said, I enjoy TV, I'm going to do this. No. There must have been something that has driven you to find depth in conversation, to find conversations that will empower other people.
Change lives.
Change lives, exactly. So that passion then empowers you to find your purpose.
That's true.
And I've always been a very driven person from all time. I would never be, I'd always want to do something. And I always say, the thing that keeps you up at night, do it. So I asked for this job that I'm doing now, and I made a note 2-3 years ago, and I said, I may not always find the job on the newspaper or on LinkedIn or whatever it is, but if I see something or I know something's coming up and I can do it, I'll put my name on for it, which is something I would never have done before. But you know, I said, I've been a reporter, anchor, etc. How many newsrooms will see me as a manager? Maybe none. So, and also in traditional media, it will take time to grow to that level. Because the hierarchy, you know, you start as a reporter, you get into this, maybe assignment editor, maybe what editor, and then you break. So I said, no, I'll put my name forward. So I called and I said, hey, I've heard you're looking for a general manager. I would love to, to pitch my name for it. And we had a conversation, but I didn't sleep the whole night before the next day. I was like looking at Bloomberg and whatever, and I'm like, I'm going to sit there and make sure that I can deliver on these things that I'm saying that I can. But I panicked completely, but I managed to.
But you got the job.
I did.
So how was it the moment you were told it's yours? How was that moment?
It was very, very scary in the beginning, because now you're like, okay, now this is where
I've got to do this.
I've got to do this. And I had a team that had already been there, met a team that had been there. And we needed to build a team, so it was in and hitting the ground running.
Fantastic.
But thankfully, because I've been an entrepreneur before, so in my head I ran it as if I would run my own business, So the entrepreneurship skills I learned in growing a business, in retaining a lean team, in inspiring, making sure your team is motivated, in teaching, because also there's very few of us within the organization that have been in media for a long time, because we made a deliberate decision to hire fresh.
Fantastic. So you're doing a lot of mentoring.
Exactly. So because of that, we had to open up our minds to teach, to be part of it. So you'll never find one person who does the one thing.
Oh, good.
We multi. You're doing auto cue, but then you're a sub editor somewhere else, on a show. You're a producer. You host a show. And I always say, what's your passion? What's your pet topic? What can you do outside of of what it is that you do today? Because many people get their first job or their second job out of necessity. There's a job, but then is it what you really want to do? So we're in a space where I hope we'll continue to nurture people to do what they really want to do.
What they're passionate about and
what they're passionate about.
But I have to ask, before we go on a break, the transition from being on air and production to now managing a whole media house, the dynamic, and what is your vision for the media world today?
Let me start with my personal vision. And I wrote down my personal vision statement 2 years ago. sat down, brainstormed with myself.
Good. We have to.
You know?
We have to have meetings with ourselves.
And I said, what are my values? What
Yeah.
do I really want to leave as a legacy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, and what I wrote down eventually, and I completely identified with, was to create business journalism or content that will empower lives in Africa.
Good job.
And so with that, I said, I still want to do this thing. Yes, I have Scarlet Digital, I have
Yeah.
Care Organics, but really my biggest passion is business journalism.
Okay.
And I knew that I can't keep doing that as an anchor and as a reporter.
Okay.
So I said, let me find, and I prayed about it, and I, you know, kept it in my head, and I said, I hope
You didn't sleep at night.
Yeah, I hope I find a place where
Yeah.
what I have in my head as a dream of what a business station should be like, I want to be in a place where I can lead that,
Okay.
which is very rare. So so I have the most exciting job.
Yeah, but that's a blessing, isn't it?
It's a blessing.
It
yeah.
is.
It's an opportunity to make alive everything that I've wanted to in terms of business. And let me just quickly say this.
Yeah.
We don't always have an opportunity to we don't always find these opportunities, but we must look out for them. Because they're there.
They wouldn't always
somewhere.
be handed to you.
They
Go
will
out
not
and
be
look for
handed
it.
to you.
That's true.
I was somewhere and somebody said the money's on the table, but you have to reach out
for it.
reach out for it, and that for me was such an awakening over the last 2 years.
That's true.
That your opportunities might not just run to you.
Yeah.
You have to go out and find them.
That's very true. Welcome back to Unscripted. Once again, special thanks to our lovely location, Radisson Blue in Arboretum. Isn't this place lovely?
It's so beautiful.
And it's your first time.
It's my so I have to
So what
take
do
a
you
walk.
think? You have to take a walk.
It's really beautiful.
We'll give you a tour after.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah?
Okay.
But thank you so much for sharing so many nuggets. I have learned a lot. I hope people at home are taking notes, are tweeting. There's a lot to learn from you. And we're grateful and celebrate you for your many, many, many strides.
Thank you.
Yeah?
Thank you, Grace.
Now this part is a little sensitive in the sense that we saw you growing from different media house and growing bigger and getting better, and at the time when you're at your peak and you're soaring, unfortunately you lose your job. How was that experience like for you? How is it for anyone, but for you, how was that moment like? How did life change as you know it?
It was many things. It was many things.
Yeah.
It was oh my God. It was what will happen to my child at the time.
Yeah.
It was what will happen to my career. What's my future like?
Questions
do I
upon
have a
questions.
future?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was very hard in the beginning. Just hearing the news crushed me. Just that way.
Sure. Sorry.
And crushed me from a very personal point because, you know, it's one thing when you lose your job, but it's one thing when you lose your job so publicly and such a public job at that.
Yeah.
When you have such a strong belief in yourself, I do my work well. I do, like, even when we knew that there was
you
going
didn't come
to
from
be
a place of not delivering.
Well, I hope so, because you know, then you'll never we never really know. No. So even when there was an announcement that there was going to be a redundancy, you never think
you never imagine it could be you.
No.
Yeah.
So when it then happened, I'm like, oh, okay, then what do I do now? I didn't know what to do. I called my friend. I told her, and she's like, just calm down, calm down. I was crying. Sure. Then I went home. I locked myself in the room. I was just telling somebody, I don't know if it was in an interview, that the hardest person to tell was the nanny.
Why?
Because what do you tell her? Kazi Meisha. Like, where do you start? Why are you at home?
Oh my gosh.
You know, why are you home? Why are you locking yourself in your room? And then because she doesn't see you cry. So why what's going on?
Mama, what's going on?
So that was so hard, and because I'd lived with her for about 10 years.
Wow.
So she basically knew me in and out, and I don't think she'd seen me crying once. And I can only experience what was going through her mind. I mean, I can only imagine, because we've never had this conversation until now. She's still with me.
Oh, good. So you didn't let her go?
No.
Oh,
no,
thank God.
No.
Okay.
Well, no, she took a break for a while, because then I was like, I'm alone at home anyway.
But I had to adjust a few things.
Yeah, so I connected her to a friend of mine who needed a nanny.
Okay.
So then she went and stayed there, and then I poached her back.
She came back home.
She came back home later. Yeah. But yeah, it was very difficult. But I had a very strong support system, which I probably had taken for granted earlier.
Yeah, how
you
so?
know? because one of the friends who really came through for me was my business partner at Scarlett. She's the MD.
I see.
And so of course I had to call her and tell her this is what has happened. And she's like, do you know we have a client meeting tomorrow at 8? I'm like, I am crying, I'm mourning. Let me cry.
But she pushed you to focus on,
she came to pick me up in the morning the next day. She didn't talk about what had happened the previous day. She just said, you know, I'm picking you up. She didn't even wait in the parking lot. She came and knocked the door in case I was going. She's like, let's go.
Well done.
And then we went into a client meeting. It was a pitch, and then the next week it was a media training, and she was just set up my desk for me in the office. And she's like, you're not stopping. She's like, you can go home and cry afterwards, but you have to. And I don't know where she got that wisdom from, because she's younger than me. I'm like,
but it helped you, didn't it?
It completely.
Fantastic.
So because of that, I didn't feel woye for myself. There was no time to feel woye. I would cry at night, but then in the morning I had to show up.
You had to go to work.
Yeah, and those people in the office, and I needed to look like I'm all right. So I was fighting so much internally, but then I had to, my brain was engaged in so many other ways.
Fantastic. Yeah. So let's talk about the importance of not having or relying on a single salary. I think as the years go by, we'll see that job security it's not really a reality. And the more sources of income you have, the safer, the better it is for you. So for you, what is your, I guess, nuggets on that, and why that is very key, and how it helped you? Yeah. So maybe just a quick story. When I started Scarlett Digital, I was working at CCTV at the time. Okay. But I was reporting late morning, at 1 o'clock, midday, thereabout. Okay. So I had the whole morning free. I see. And I'm like, I'm not the type of person who just chill and wait. Okay. So I set up Scarlett, and I'm like, I like the digital space. I'll go convince brands that can help you build your digital footprint. Oh, nice. So, and that's exactly what I did. So I set up a business name first, because I didn't even know the whole process of setting up a company. Okay. I approached a few friends. I love how you just put your foot in there and figure it out. And that's how Scarlett started. Wow. But of course, then Care Organics. Okay. So my older daughter had eczema. Well, she still does from time to time. So because of that, I ended up starting Care Organics. I bought 2 buckets of shea butter. That was my first investment into it. Really? Got some containers. Yes. I started with 60K. Look at that. And it was fun. And that was mostly just fun and a labor of love as well. Yeah, and experimenting with a new career, a new business. Those pop-up shops and markets that had just started coming up, like farmers markets, etc. So it was a fun way to also spend the weekend and make some extra money on the side, of course, which was fun for me. So that's how they both started. But when I lost my job, that's when I was like, oh my goodness, let me focus. If I hadn't started this, then where would I start? Imagine. You know, what would I do? So I find that there's some divine connection. There is. You know, that happens along the way. Yeah. But also it really kept me awake to the importance of multiple streams of income. That's true. And it's something even our parents did. My dad was working, but he had a farm. Okay. You know, so at the end of the year there was maize, there was whatever. Fantastic. So there was an income. Yeah. So side hustle is not a new term. It's not. You know, it's not a new thing. Yeah. It may be a new term, but it's not a new thing. So our parents had side hustles. Maybe a teacher, but they had a shop at home. That's true. Or they were knitting. There's always something that our parents were doing. So for me, I'm in the place where I say, as a woman, it's important to have multiple streams of income. And even because sometimes it's a sticky point, because you might be a full-time career woman, but you want to do something on the side. And for me, the advice is get somebody else to run. Got it. The business. Okay. So you've started. You're the brainchild, but get a professional. It might not be, you know, top CEO cream, but start small. Okay. But get somebody to do it, so that you're not in the middle of typing your report and you get a phone call. Maybe a client needs this, needs that. We've run out of shopping bags. Okay. We've run out of shea butter. Okay. And you're at work? No. Even from a professionalism point of view. So just balance it properly. Okay. Find time after work to deal, or before work. But make sure your work gets 100% if you're employed, because that's usually where the sticky, like, how do you balance that? So speaking of children, you brought them up. Yeah. You have a 14-year-old and you have a 2-year-old. Yes. Teenager and a toddler. Yeah. Let's talk about the dynamics there. How is that reality like? It's, well,
first I'm glad I have two before I turn 40.
Okay.
Because I said I don't want to be a 40-year-old woman walking around with a big stomach.
But still, the second time round, how was it?
It was a very difficult pregnancy,
Yeah.
honestly, and it was difficult from the beginning to the end.
Wow.
It was
There
hectic.
was no...
I thought I was going to die. It was really, now I can laugh about it. But I was in pain from the beginning to the end.
Oh, no.
It was as if the pain was moving from different parts of my body.
And the doctor said that's because you were older when you were having the baby?
Well, it was one of the reasons.
Okay.
You know, the older you get, the more complicated
That's true.
it gets. If I had it my way, I would have had both before I turned 30.
Yeah.
But that wasn't,
The plan. Yeah.
So it was difficult, and just learning how to, get my older child to still feel that she's, not been compromised, and now there's a new child who's all the attention, whether it's guests who come in or the nanny or myself.
Yeah.
And learning later on that when you get a new child in the home, you need to focus on the older child, because a younger child will never remember if they're a baby. So the focus has to be on the older child.
Older one.
But as
be
they
very
grow,
aware.
you have to be very aware.
Okay.
Because they're seeing,
That's
especially
true.
if they're above the age of 4,
Okay.
they can see. So you
Okay.
have to give them the most of
Attention.
the attention, because the baby's like sleeping and crying all the time.
I know.
And, like you can deal
Sleeping,
with that.
feeding, crying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can deal with that, and
Yeah.
they'll never remember. But the older child will always remember.
Got
But then it will also give you balance as a parent,
How so?
because we get so overwhelmed with the baby, a new baby.
Yes,
You forget completely. So that will
do.
give you balance in the sense of where your priority is at the time.
Okay.
So on the older child, but as they both grow,
Yeah.
now you'll have learned how to balance both.
Thank you for
You'll have
sharing
learned how
that.
to balance both. So for me, that was something I learned, and I was like, yeah, finally, because motherhood can be overwhelming. Yeah,
I like to talk about the importance of keeping some things to ourselves, especially if you're in the limelight and the social media craze that is this century. Why is it important and necessary for us to keep some things to ourselves?
Because I believe there's a reason personal is actually called personal.
Personal.
And there's
That's
things that
true.
are your personal life that should remain that way.
I agree.
And if you put too much out there, then it invites
criticism and
because
people
you've
thinking they
allowed
can
that
speak on your
also.
life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And bad energy.
Bad energy.
And there's always somebody with bad energy somewhere.
That's true.
So for me, I said, I'll protect my dating life.
Okay.
I'll protect the people that I date,
Great.
because they're not public personalities. So
They're
they don't.
not.
I don't want their lives
And
out
it's
there.
nobody's business.
And it's- exactly.
Two nosy people.
Yeah. So I would rather keep that part of my life as private as possible,
Okay.
and it gives me peace. I sleep
like
well
that.
at night,
Okay.
and nobody really needs to know.
That's true.
Until the day I walk down the aisle, and then that
Maybe they can know.
then, but
Even then, you can still keep that quiet
exactly.
if you choose to.
Yeah, exactly. But personal should be personal.
It should be.
Yeah, yeah.
I have to ask, with everything you have achieved, Terry Anne, what does success mean to you today?
Success for me is when I sleep well at night. Because it means a lot.
Yeah.
It means a lot. It means
Your conscience is clear.
It means my conscience is clear.
Yeah.
It means I'm not worried about tomorrow.
Yeah.
It means my children are okay.
True.
They're happy. They're healthy. They're not suffering from anything. Because you can't sleep well at night as a human being if there's something that's bothering you.
Yeah.
So for me, that's success. Another thing that I hope, with time, because my kids are still growing,
Yeah.
is that they will live lives that are comfort, well-grounded, successful,
Yeah.
good education,
Good head on
not
the
have to
shoulders.
struggle,
Yeah.
because it's tough these days. But I'm like, let me do everything I can now.
Yeah. To ensure that
To
they'll
ensure, like one of the
okay as
things
they can
I'm
be.
lately absorbed with is building generational wealth, which is something we don't really talk about in our society today.
Okay.
But it's important to set up our children for the future.
How are you doing that? If you could give us a few tips.
So for me, it's what can I start building now that will surpass me.
Got
So
it.
for me, it's the businesses.
Okay.
Hopefully to grow big enough for them to have some shareholding in it,
Good.
to take care of their children, their children's children.
Well done. Well done. And I think that's it. Success is doing stuff that outlasts you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even after Terry Anne is gone, we will remember you and see you through your children and what you've set up.
I hope so.
Thank you.
That's what I would say.
And what would you like them to remember you for?
I would like to be remembered as being a good person.
Okay.
A person that loved others.
Oh.
A person that was faithful to my calling.
Okay.
A good mom.
Okay.
And somebody who believed in in giving my best to everything. And business journalism.
And business journalism.
Business journalism.
That's definitely at the top right there.
Yeah, as a person who took business journalism to where it's supposed to be. Because we're all hustlers. At the end of the day, you want information about how to grow your business.
That's
so
true.
Where did you get it from?
From Terry Anne Chebet. So Terry Anne, finish the sentence. I am a woman and I am?
I am a woman and I am strong.
Time for a gift. Da-da-da-da.
Oh, wow.
Thanks, Mercy. So thanks to Nivea, our partner during this period of celebrating women. I don't know if you use a nourishing cocoa butter.
Wow, I haven't tried it actually.
You haven't?
No.
So I have very dry skin, especially my hands can get really dry.
Yeah.
But if you try this,
Oh, fantastic.
and I'm not just saying it, guys, I use it and it's true. It gives you the natural glow and you feel...
And it has cocoa butter, so that's like
does.
absolutely...
Right?
Yeah.
And you also get the cream, which is equally good.
Okay.
And something for your handbag. The smaller version. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
And
the
I love
kids.
the
You can
packaging,
try with
by
the
way.
kids. You like the packaging?
My kids will probably take the lotion.
Okay.
I'll take the butter. I'll hide it in my room.
There you go. But this is for you, just to say thank you.
Thank you very much.
For being a woman who is not afraid to go the next level, whether it's in your businesses, just changing the narrative and being super well at it and looking amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for hosting me.
We appreciate it and we love you. Let's all remember to celebrate each other this month. We are all amazing in whatever perspective, whatever you're doing, whatever field, whether you're a stay-at-home mother, whether you're a businesswoman. We love you and we celebrate you. Until next week, good night and God bless.